Alright, so welcome everyone. Today we are going to be doing a really quick overview of some sewing machine basics. With the holidays coming up, I realize people may be using a sewing machine more, or you may have gotten one as a present, and so this is going to go over some really quick and easy highlights of a sewing machine to show you what it looks like. As you can see, I have this Brother. It is the CS5055 PRW. It was the Project Runway limited edition. I believe you can still get it on Amazon if you are interested. I had a Singer sewing machine before this. Both are really great options, and they have a lot of similar features. So even if your sewing machine doesn't look exactly like this, or it's the exact model, hopefully there is enough similarities that we can kind of walk through it together. So when you take your sewing machine out of the box, or when you're looking at it, normally what you'll see on the side, and sometimes this is at the top, is you'll have a list of all of your stitches that are available on your machine, as well as you'll see different maybe buttons or knobs so that you can work through those. So the ones that I'm going to be focusing on today is just a straight stitch. So on mine that is 00 or 01. You do have a bunch of others, and if you're interested in learning about how you would use those or how those would work, please let me know and I can do a video kind of describing that as well. So at the top though, you'll see you have a place for your thread to go. There is some sort of little stopper for your thread, and this is what kind of holds it in. So when you put your thread on, you can see that the thread has kind of a circle for you to put through so that it can fit onto the little thread holder, and then you put this stopper on and that keeps it in place. Some machines will have like one of these where it can hold 2 threads. If that's what yours is, you only need to worry about 1 if you're just doing very basic sewing, which that's what this video is covering. So once you have your thread on the thread holder, you will then have your thread, and what you can do is you can then loop it through your sewing machine. So different machines have different ways that they do this. So mine, you kind of put it in this one part and then you would loop it underneath this area, so you can see that there's that little diagram showing you how to do it. And then what happens here is you have 2 different ways to go. So if you want to thread your machine normally, you would then go down, up, and then there is like a little silver piece in here that you kind of attach onto, and then you would bring it down to the needle. If you wanted to fill a bobbin though, that's what this little device is showing. You would then bring this thread, loop it under this little silver hole, and then you would kind of bring it around and your bobbin would go here. Anyways, we will continue on threading. So now what you're going to do is you're going to bring your thread down. So it says 3 down there, so you're going to bring it back up, and then it shows 4, so you're going to loop this around. You will be able to kind of feel that it's like attached to something, and you can see in there that it's attached. And then you bring it down, and then you want to attach it underneath that silver, which this part can be a little tricky to get it to work on. So then once you do get it threaded, so now this is where you can thread it into your needle. So some sewing machines will have kind of like this little automatic threader, so it'll kind of pops through and then you can bring it under that way. If you have, there's different little tools you can get to thread it, but basically you want your thread to go into the hole of the needle. And then once you get it in, you're just going to kind of pull the thread under, and that is how you thread your sewing machine. So as you can see, this is where your bobbin will go. So in this sewing machine specifically, the bobbin goes down here. Different sewing machines have different ways that you would put that in. So what I will show quickly is if you already had a bobbin completed, all you do for this is you kind of plop it in there, and then it has its own little instructions as well, but you bring the bobbin thread through here and then around, and then it automatically has a little piece that will cut the thread off. And then I just put my bobbin cover back on. And that's how my sewing machine's threaded. So when you take your sewing machine out of the box, it may be threaded, it may not be threaded, but the first thing that you want to note is on the side, this is where your on and off switch is. So here's my on and off switch. This black cord for me, this is my power cord, and then behind that is my presser foot cord, so that's where that goes into. So my presser foot cord is right here, that's where it goes into. You'll see back here that there is this little switch. This is more for if you are doing something that doesn't require feeding the fabric. So for example, this may be free motion quilting. At the moment, I do have the little feet on, so you can see these little grooves. This helps move the fabric through your sewing machine. I have those turned on right now. If you are doing something where you didn't need them, you do have the ability to turn it off though. So what I will do is I will go ahead and turn this on. So you can see that the light came on, we have everything threaded. Up here, so this is how we put our presser foot. So you'll see it's gonna go down, then you can go back up. This A2, this is for buttonholes, so you can bring that down or up. We're not gonna be worrying about buttonholes today though. this little tab, this was our threader. And then yeah, so this is what my sewing machine looks like. You can see on the side, so you will see up here we have what stitch we're on. So we're on 00, so it's a straight stitch. This 2.5 is telling you the length of your stitch. So if you just want a normal stitch, that's 2.5. If you wanted more of a basting stitch, you could max this out to however high it would go. And then if you wanted like a really, really tiny stitch, for example, for like silk, you can make that smaller. On mine, it does show you kind of like what the standard size would be. And then what this is it allows you to move your needle. So depending on how your fabric was set up, you could move your needle to the left or right. So now I have a piece of test fabric here. And what I'm going to do is we're actually going to sew with it. The way that you're gonna sew with this is that you put your fabric onto your sewing machine, and then you're going to press your presser foot down on it. Then you hold your fabric in place, and you're going to press the foot that came with your sewing machine, and then just gently press it, and it's gonna start sewing. You can see that we have this button up here, so if you wanted to make a more secure stitch, this allows you to back tack. So you may have seen patterns that will say about back tacking or back stitching. So all this does is it actually just makes the sewing machine go in reverse. So now some sewing machines, when you're done using them, they will have the needle still be down, and some will have it automatically go up. This is more so like if you wanted to turn your fabric. So what I could do is I could lift my presser foot, and then I can turn the fabric. So if I was doing a corner, I could then put this down, and then I could start sewing again, and I wouldn't have to worry about the needle coming out. I am done with this though, so what I'm going to do is on the side, you can see you have that little wheel. So I'm going to turn this, and when I turn it, you'll see the needle goes up, and then lift this up, and now my fabric can come out. We have our top thread, and then we have our bobbin. So most sewing machines, they'll have like a little hook on the side, so you can see it has a little description. And what you do is you can actually kind of bring this up and around, and it's little scissors, a little sharp point, and it'll cut it off for you. So now we can see our stitch. It looks very nice. If at different times you ever see that you have an issue with your stitch, the first thing to check is that everything is threaded correctly. So make sure your bobbin's threaded correctly, as well as your top thread is done correctly. If that is done correctly, then you can always check on the side to be sure what stitch you're using and what is the width of it, as well as where the needle is positioned. Once you get through that, I would say to kind of clean your machine, see what's going on. And then that would be then where you may want to start worrying about the tension. Most of the time you want to leave this knob alone. 4 is the normal, but there are some occasions where you may need to very gradually move it up or down, and that will be dependent on the issue with your thread. So for example, with mine, if you saw the bobbin kind of coming up, that may be an issue where I need to move that tension a little bit more towards 3, or if we were seeing the top thread on the bottom come through, we may need to move the tension a little bit more towards 5. So that's just something you could look into. Most of the time, you will not need to worry about that, and I would definitely say to use this as a last resort. But yeah, so I think this concludes the end of our little video. I hope you enjoyed these sewing machine basics. Let me know what you want to see next. If there's any other parts of the sewing machine you're interested in, I can definitely talk about, like buttonholes. That's what these stitches are. We talked about the use of zigzag, and then some of these are just decorative stitches as well. So if you like this video and you want to see more, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell me what you want to see next.